Today is August 6th, 2015, and I'm here just to make two quick, or I guess three little segments of a video. The main thing I want to discuss today is basically going stealth versus not going stealth, and my thought process with it, how I came to the decision I did, etc. But I also want to make two quick little segments, trans update and life update, because they're important. So I will put the time that you should skip to if you don't want to listen to that crap in the description below. But anyway, so I am almost 8 months on T. I didn't make a 7-month video because there really wasn't anything to say. At this point, changes are kind of evening out. I've continued to get a little hairier. I've hit a growth spurt again, in which I've gotten quite a bit bigger, gained another like 6 pounds, which is probably just fat, but I'm going to tell myself it's muscle. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much all that's happened. I am going through clothes like ridiculously quick. I don't have any clothes to wear, which kind of sucks because the clothes that I bought after my first growth spurt are now way too small. The ones that were like super baggy, now they don't fit. So great, I get to give them on to other smaller trans guys. Yay. But that's actually what I'm going to do. I promise, I'm not just saying that. But yeah, so I had another growth spurt, whatever. I'm also 2.5 months post-op, so I'm going to just show you real quick what that looks like. Oof, I like skinned up my elbows super bad the other day on my longboard. It was awesome. So it's like cracking. Okay. All right. So here we go. 2.5 months post-op. Got a little bit of redness in my scars still, but for 2.5 months, I'm definitely not upset. I know that it'll fade within the first year. Definitely 2. So I've been trying to keep it out of the sun. I've been putting scar strips, the silicone scar strips on them, as well as trying to massage them. I'm really bad about it, but I do the best I can. So yeah, the scars, I'm definitely pleased with the appearance of. You can kind of see a little bit of here. I did stretch, especially this one, out because I tend to sleep like this on my side, and I think I did that too early. So it's a little bit stretched out. It's not that bad, but it's just one of those things we nitpick about ourselves, I guess. My coloration on my nipples is starting to come in finally, but I'm sure it'll come back in. Feeling-wise, I have feeling in my entire chest, which is really surprising. I even have light feeling in my nipples as well. Definitely not erotic sensation, but I can kind of feel touch again, which is nice. I'm getting a little bit of pec muscle here, just a little bit, nothing crazy. But I hit the gym. I started hitting the gym again. Yeah, so as far as range of motion, I have full range of motion again, which is good. I can go all the way up here. It's a little bit tight if I come back, but I still have that motion. So back to completely normal on that. I started CrossFit again, which is super fun. I absolutely love it. I'm dying because I just moved to Colorado and there's no air up here, I swear to God. But it's fantastic. Love the box I'm at. I'm struggling with overhead stuff a little bit. Like pull-ups, I can hang there and I can do strict pull-ups, but the kipping motion of pulling back, it's a little bit too much for me just right now. And anything overhead I can do. Like I can do presses, I can do squats, but the thing is I can't do very much weight, and I definitely can't do it for very long. The problem is doing more than like a couple reps, I start to really lose stability on the lifts, but I know that that'll come back to me. My leg strength has stayed the same or actually increased, which is super weird. I was not expecting that. My squats have only gone down by like 10 pounds of what I was doing before, which is not much when you're talking about over 250. That's not a ton at all to lose. So I was pretty happy about that. My deadlifts actually went up. Don't know how that happened, but apparently it did, so that's cool. Yeah, so there's pretty much my fitness update. It's not that exciting. My life update is that I did move to Colorado. I am here for law school. I'm very excited about it. I know I've mentioned that in a couple previous videos, but I am here to start that in about a week and a half is orientation, and then a week after that is classes. I just dropped $825 in my books. Yay, super not happy about that. But no, I'm actually really excited about it. I do want to do work with the LGBT community here in the future. That's why I want to go into this, because there aren't that many trans lawyers out there, and it's something that we need representation for. Because there's a lot of battles that the trans community has that the gay community doesn't. We have a different fight, and that's not to say that the gay community didn't fight hard for their rights or whatever. I'm not in any way invalidating that, but our struggles are different. And our needs are different. And I would venture to say that we need more out of the medical and legal communities and psychological communities than the gay community does. Because the gay community doesn't have to go get a referral to date someone. We have to get a referral to start hormones. We have to get a referral to do surgery. We have to get a referral to get our gender markers changed or whatever. You know what I mean? It's a very different experience. So I think that having trans representation in the law, the legal field is very important, and that's something that I would like to provide in the future. But anyways, so there's the life update, marking that down at 5:24. Okay, so 5:24 is when we're going to actually start talking about things that are related to the main subject of this video, and that's basically my decision and thought process as to why, I made the decision I made as far as going stealth versus not going stealth. And let me just say real quick, before I get too far into this video, I realize that a lot of what I'm going to say is very, very much out of privilege, because I had passing privilege very early. Before I started T, I did, and that's not typical of people. And I realize with that can come across as I think I'm better, or I'm being arrogant about that, and I'm not in any way. I recognize the fact that not everyone has that experience. But I do want to talk a little bit about mine, which may not be the norm, but it is something that I think is important to get out there, because I know I'm not the only person that experiences that. And on top of that, because a lot of people, if they want to pass, if that's something that they're trying to do, this is something that comes up when you do start passing. It's not something that is isolated in any way. This is something we all have to encounter, unless you're not trying to, or you're not buying into the whole passing notion, and that's totally fine. Like, I totally support you, whatever you want to do. But if that is a goal of yours, this is something that is going to come up. And so I kind of want to share a little bit about my decision as to, where I fall on that scale and how I navigate that personally, because I think it's a topic we don't talk about enough. And so I want to put something out there, and maybe it'll help someone else. But I've been on both ends of the scale, as far as I wanted to, initially when I started transitioning, the goal was be male, be read as male, do everything male, and yay, and that was that. And I was thinking, like, oh, it'll be great, and like I'll just transition, and it's like point A to point B, and I want to be on point B, and I don't want to acknowledge anything in that line to point A, or anything prior to point A existed. I'm just going to exist from here on out. And that's something I never thought out, like, logically as far as a linear pattern, but it's something that I acted like that's how I was going to behave. And then I started transitioning, and I was like, no, like, the trans community is awesome. We need to put some visibility out there. I'm going to be like, trans man, and like have a cape and a giant T on my chest or whatever. And, and I went through that phase as well, as far as thinking I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be the most visible trans man ever, and I'm going to, I don't know, whatever. But And both of those are fine, and I know people on both ends that feel very strongly about both of them, and that's totally fine. Like, this is a very personal decision, and it's something that you have to wrestle with and come to what is best for you and your mental health and your life. And for me, basically, I've come to somewhere in the middle, because for me, both extremes have their drawbacks, and I don't really find them something that I can live with. Because for me, being super out is something I don't want, because I've been the token minority my whole life. I am adopted. I'm a racial minority. I was raised as a female. I identified as gay for a long time. I was gender nonconforming my entire life. So basically, literally anytime anyone did a diversity paper and had to interview someone, they would interview me. I am not joking about that. I literally had people fighting over interviewing me because I was the only diverse person they knew. Like, I am not... Oh, and on top of that, I was an atheist in Midwest USA, which is very not common. So, all that to say, like, I'm used to people being my friend and wanting only to know about one aspect of my life. And that's something I have lived with forever, and I hate it. Because I don't know what, immigrant Asian Americans think. I don't know what Asians think that are in China or Japan or Vietnam or wherever the hell people think I'm from. Like, I know my experience, and that is being raised in America for 20 and a half years. I'm 21 years old, and 20 and a half of those years have been here. So if you ask me about Asian politics, I don't know. I know one word of Chinese. That's it. Like, I know one word of Chinese and whatever the hell is on the takeout menu. Like, that's all I know. But my entire life, it's always been, oh, well, what do you think about this as a minority? Or, when I identified as gay, well, what does the gay population think about this? Like, we're all people, we have different opinions, and I've been that token person my whole life, and it's very exhausting, and it's not something that I want to continue doing, because I'm going to always be the token minority friend. I can't change my skin color, whatever. But I don't really want to be that token trans friend of, oh, well, let me just use you as an encyclopedia of knowledge about the trans community. Like, let me ask you personal invasive questions. Like, even though I don't know you very well. Like, those type of things I don't feel comfortable with. And that's my personal decision, my personal experience. But for me, that's not what I want. And it's very distracting from everyday life. And it's hard because you're always being reminded that you're different. And I don't want to make my identity out of being one single facet because there's so much more to me. And I'm here to go to law school. I'm here to be a law student. I'm here to be a lawyer. That's the ultimate goal, obviously. I mean, I guess, whatever. But I'm here to be a lawyer, and I want to be known for being smart, being hardworking, being a go-getter. Those type of things, like those type of attributes, that's what I want to be known for. I want to be known as the good guy, as the guy that's kind and compassionate. I don't want to be known as just that trans guy. Now, I'm fine being, the kind, compassionate guy who happens to be trans, but I don't want to be just the trans guy and have everything else about me completely wiped out. Because that's not healthy, and it's going to create a lot of distraction for me, I think, in my law school career, if that's all I base my identity out of. And so the second part of that is, I guess, over here, which is being stealth. And I worked stealth for 6 or 7 months, kind of unintentionally. I just never outed myself, and people just assumed I was a cisgender male from pre-T until my voice sounds like this, and somehow no one noticed. I really don't know, whatever. Anyway, but it made me kind of miserable, honestly, because I had to edit myself all the time, and I was constantly worried that someone was going to find out, and what eventually it did to me was it made me really internalize a lot of transphobia about myself, and it made me believe that there was something wrong with me, because I felt like my trans identity was something I had to hide, and my past was something I had to hide, and that it was something that was shameful. And so, like, when I would tell stories, I would either avoid and just completely avoid my childhood, or I would edit it so that it sounded normal, and typical, and that it lined up with my gender presentation now. And so, like, I couldn't tell stories about when I was in Girl Scouts. I couldn't tell stories about when I played softball. I couldn't tell stories about how I played a small forward in high school, because I'm 5'8", and there's no male basketball team, like, anywhere that would play a 5'8" small forward as a male. That just wouldn't happen, unless you were really hurting for people. But, like, most people would kind of be like, what? So, I mean, it's something that I don't see another way out of editing, lying, or editing. I guess editing and lying are kind of the same thing, or just completely avoiding it. And I don't feel comfortable with either of those because it makes me miserable. And that's honestly what it comes down to. And that's my personal feeling, and that's not to degrade anyone who chooses to be stealth, because I think that's a perfectly respectable decision. But for me, it makes me hate myself, and it makes me feel like there's something wrong with me. Because when I have to lie about who I am, it makes me feel like there's something that I should be ashamed of. And so what I've come to is basically the realization that I want to be out without outing myself constantly. I don't want to be, trans right here, boom. But I also don't want to be, like, obsessed with hiding my past, obsessed with, not someone, like, I don't want to freak out. I don't want to have my heart drop when someone tags me in a picture from high school. I don't want to, flip my shit if somebody calls me and uses my dead name. Those type of things, like, it causes a lot of anxiety for me. And so I just want to be me. I want to be known as Jordan. And I want that, if I don't treat it like it's that big of a deal, if I don't make people acknowledge, like, hey, did you know I'm trans? Let's make sure you acknowledge that I'm trans. Like, if I don't treat people like that, if I just treat it like, yeah, I am, but I'm also a 1L, and I want to study constitutional law. I want to study employment law. I want to make this world a good place for the people in the LGBT community. If I'm that person instead of being, super trans guy, then maybe that's how people will treat me in return. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's something that I'm going to pursue at this point in my life, is basically I'm not going to sit and stress about who I was and not own who I was, because that is a part of my life, and I'm comfortable with that. I don't feel like there's anything to be ashamed of in that. But I'm also not going to tout it out for everyone to see. So, navigating the pragmatic aspect of that is going to be a little bit difficult, but I'm sure it's something I'm going to figure out here over the next year, 3 years, I guess, of my life. But anyway, so those are my thoughts. I would love to hear yours in the comments. If you've got anything that you want to ask a question about, feel free to do so. I don't check my YouTube channel as much as I should. Feel free to shoot me a DM over Instagram, though. It's the same name, Lucky Panda Cub. I'm on there as well. I usually check that a lot more. So feel free to hit me up. Other than that, peace out, take care, have a great rest of your night, and make wise choices, everyone.